I'm watching that and I say, wow, what a long segment. But it told such a great story.
Yeah.
It told a great story. Or it told the story well enough that it needed. If they'd have started taking breaks and that, people would have said that it would have pissed them off. It would have pissed me off. I'd have got on a plane right then and flew up there and slapped Triple H right when I saw him. What do you think about the show, Sid?
I thought it was a very good show. This was a very good show. It's centered around what it needed to be centered around, and that's the latest chapter in the Bloodline. And I think it did a great job of following up and getting us on the path to SummerSlam on the show. So overall, if that's the focus of the show, it's usually going to be one of their better shows. Everything else doesn't really matter. That was the great stuff. So yeah, I thought the show was great. What about you?
No, it was that segment with that tribal trial. Man, that was a long segment. But I will give WWE credit. The announcers laid out on it. That's called not talking for the people don't know what I'm not. They laid out and let the characters tell the story. And you could tell that the fans are really invested in this because they wanted Jade to take the, I guess, what is that, the tribal bead?
Delay.
Wanted Solo to take it. So every one of these players in this whole segment are super, super over. That's why now they don't need to do anything big with them. Now they do the little minute stuff, the little bit of, that you can read a lot into it. So even the times the announcers were laying out, I could just look at the fans' brain spinning. Oh, what now? What does this mean? What does that mean? And that's exactly where you need fans to be, because they're doing the thinking when you're even trying to look at the overall product, but the fans are doing the thinking for you. So I thought it was how many matches did they have? They only had like 3 matches, right?
I want to say, yeah, maybe 3 or 4. I'll go and count it as we go through the recap here, but let's go through what happened with the Bloodline, because that was the majority of this show was centered on. And like you said, they got nearly like 1/4 of the show was just for the first segment. So they did a recap of what went down with the Bloodline Civil War, with Jey Uso scoring the first win over Roman Reigns, the first pinfall win over him in 3.5 years at Money in the Bank. And then the Usos came out to a huge reaction from the Madison Square Garden crowd. They knew the lyrics to their song, and they were singing along with it. You had Jimmy and Jay play into the crowd with the mic, and they say they feel good after pinning Roman Reigns, but this is interrupted by Paul Heyman, who's flanked by Solo Sikoa. He's holding the 2 of the Roman's championship, and he introduces himself to the crowd. He says,
here, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
During this, not right here, but they were like 10 or 15 seconds that I just had silence. Did you have the same thing? Was that because the crowd was saying something?
Yeah, there was a few times they did that. I think when the crowd were doing the curse word chants, maybe I think there was another time they did like a chant, and since we're doing this recorded, they can just edit this out. But yeah, they were doing those type of chants, and that's when they had to go completely kind of, because I know they have like a couple of second delay on the broadcast, so they just muted it completely.
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought. Okay, continue.
Yeah, so yeah, Heyman's talking about how they are talking about this tribal court, but he's gonna spell it out for them that the only one who can tell Jay and Jimmy tell him that they want Heyman to shut up, and he says the only one that can tell him that he's about to say Roman Reigns, but Solo takes the mic from Heyman, he drops it.
Great move. I loved it.
And then you have Roman Reigns come out. That brings us to our first commercial. So he comes out and he's standing in the ring with Heyman, Jimmy J, Solo on the other side, and Roman gets a mic from Heyman, and he waits on a whole chant of "You got pinned" from the Madison Square Garden crowd, and he admits to getting pinned, but he said he's still the tribal chief. They chant tribal chief for him. Roman brings up how that they're talking about this tribal court tonight, but he says the only person who can call a tribal court is the tribal chief, and he says that who's trying to be the tribal chief here. And then Jimmy and Jay present Exhibit A, which is basically footage of Roman Reigns abusing his power and abusing his family, chewing out Jimmy and Jay after the WrestleMania loss and the aftermath with Roman running roughshod over them. They even included his bullying of Paul Heyman and knocking him out with a Superman punch, and Roman seems unfazed by reminding them of his tyranny at first, and then we get Madison Square Garden with the "You fucked up" chant, which I think that was the first time that they muted it out because they were cursing like that. And Roman says that it isn't who he is. What the video package show. He says that's who he was forced to be. He says he didn't want to lower himself like that. Answer. He said he didn't want to do it. He did it for Jay. He did it for Jimmy. He did it for Solo. And Roman says that he was the WrestleMania main event long before the Bloodline, and he did this to get them over. And he bent his moral compass for the family, for the elders, and this is what he gets. And he says
unappreciative family. I don't blame him. I thought it was a great interview. Go ahead.
Oh, it was excellent. It was excellent. He was trying to play on the emotional heartstrings here. So he says that he gets a compilation of his worst moments to embarrass him in front of his family. He says his kids are back there, and he says he takes the weight of the world and everyone's family, and he lifts them up. And Roman didn't need more kids, and he's got 5 of his own, and didn't need to shoulder their burdens as well. And he says he doesn't need this. He doesn't need more money. He doesn't need more power.
I'm out, he says.
Roman says doesn't want or need to be the tribal chief. He says he's done with all of this. He tosses the mic, and Jay follows suit. Roman stares down Jay, and then he takes off his ceremonial necklace, the lei, and he seems to offer it to Jay. He puts it around his neck. Heyman is crying, and so is Roman. Roman's got tears on his cheek.
That's great.
Great stuff. He takes off his title. He tosses that down. He gets on his knees in front of Jay. Jay goes to touch him.
Now, let me stop you. At that point right there, what did you think was going to happen?
Oh, I knew it was going to leave him a low blow. I was like, no, this is Roman. Roman is gaslighting him. And
I knew something.
He's sucking him in.
I knew something was going to happen, Ben. I said, but just a little bit of part of me says, he may give it's a swerve, but he may give it to him. He can take it back at any time anyway, because he's the chief. But when he had that little tear, that was great. Okay, go ahead, continue.
And Paul Heyman, he puts it over the top with his facial expressions as well.
It looks like Paul Heyman. He does sell it good. His faces are tremendous.
So Jay tries to comfort Roman, and then Roman gives him a low blow, which Jay goes down in a heap. Jimmy wants to check on Jay, but then he attacks Roman. Then Solo pulls him off. Solo looks at the fallen necklace, and Solo deliberates with himself.
That was the point where the people saying, "Whoa!"
Oh.
Now it's decision time for Solo. And the people wanted him to take it.
Yeah.
And now Triple H hears that, and the creative hear it and see it. Now it has another facet that it can go. And that was great for him. So I love that part too. When he was looking at it and the people were looking at it too, a million thoughts going through everybody's head at that time.
Exactly.
I love this.
So you get he's looking at the necklace, and then Jimmy charges Solo. He puts him down, and you get a loud chant from the crowd saying, "Put it on, put it on," as he has the necklace in his hand. Roman stands in front of Solo and asks to give it to him. Then Jay attacks them both to prevent Solo from giving back the necklace. Solo drills Jay with a spinning Solo. Then Roman wipes out Jimmy with a Superman punch, but Solo and Roman still have a little bit of tension, and they send Jimmy to the outside. They look to put him through the announce table, but Jay shows up to make this an even bigger brawl. You get Solo attacks him, gives him the Samoan spike on the steel steps, and then they put Jimmy on the announce table after they toss Jay over the announce table and lay all the chairs on top of him. And Solo gives him a big splash through the announce table, laying him out, and Jimmy has to be stretchered out of the building, and that's like the end of this whole entire first segment, which went, I believe, 34 minutes with everything, really? With the recap and everything. Yeah, I'm
watching that and say, wow, what a long segment, but it told such a great story.
Yeah,
it told a great story, or it told the story well enough that it needed. If they'd have started taking breaks and that, people would have said that it would have pissed them off. It would have pissed me off. I'd have got on a plane right then and flew up there and slapped Triple H right when I saw him for breaking off on those segments right there. But very, very good segment. And I'm glad it went longer because the people were saying, I hope they don't take a break. And they didn't. So they did a great job with that. I'll hand them that. So continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I did.
No. I did, but
so during the final matchup on the show, we got an announcement that Jay Uso, who went in the ambulance with Jimmy Uso on the stretcher, he went to the hospital with him, that he was returning back to the building. We see Roman Reigns in the locker room with Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman informs Roman Reigns, and he tells him that he's gonna meet him out there in the ring, and he's gonna basically handle this once and for all. So we get Roman, Heyman, and Solo are already in the ring, and Roman says he doesn't like how this went the first time. So again, he says Madison Square Garden and all of New York acknowledge me. Jay Uso comes out, and right after that, well, at least at his music, and then Roman and Solo are waiting around for him, but he comes through the crowd. He jumps over the guardrail, jumps onto Solo Sikoa, then he gets in the ring. He's fighting it out with Roman Reigns. Eventually, he gets the better of Roman Reigns. He gets a steel chair that Solo Sikoa brings into the ring, and he uses it on him, on Roman.
Well, did he use it? He whipped that ass. I'm watching. I said, damn. I mean, he was laying him in, and it looked good too, and you could hear it.
Yeah.
So he beat him up pretty good. I enjoyed that.
He was not holding back. Those were some lethal steel chair shots, especially on Solo, his younger brother. And then after that, he gets on the mic. Roman had left the undisputed WWE Universal Championship in the ring. He picks it up, and he says that he wants to settle this once and for all. He says no brothers, no tribal chief, none of that. He says one-on-one, me, you, Roman, let's do it. So they basically ended the show saying that the ball is in Roman Reigns' court now. So it seems like this is going to be the main event for SummerSlam, Jay Uso versus Roman Reigns. What did you think about everything that went down tonight with the Bloodline, with the Tribal Court, and the final segment?
Well produced, well acted, well executed, and I think it left the people wanting more, which is the essence of doing TV. You want to see how this ends, and they have taken it so long now that even though they took them 2 hours to get all this in, it didn't move much. It moved just enough to keep the story moving along. So that was basically SmackDown tonight. Was a Bloodline trial, family court, or whatever they called it. It was wrestler's court with with a Samoan slant to it, but it's very good.